Okay, here's a quick video. It's going to show you how to build a simple tugboat like this guy here. You can see I've got Mr. Pat, my initials there. I've got some portholes. I've got, for some reason, a penny glued to the side and some smokestacks here. And this is actually a good activity to teach you a bunch of basic skills. So I'll go back to TinkerCAD main page by clicking on the logo up here in the top left corner. Create a new design right here. All right. One thing I like to do is turn down in the bottom corner here, I like to turn my snap grid off. It just makes my life a little easier. And then edit grid, I like to be in inches because I'm here in America and I think in inches. I don't think in millimeters. All right. So the first thing I'm going to do is reach over here on the right hand side and grab a box and drag it out. And if I click on these corners, by the way, these little squares here, we call those handles. If I grab a handle and I pull, instead of it being 1 inch, you can see the numbers of inches changing down there. I think I'm going to make this about 3 inches long. And let's make it maybe 1.5 inches wide. There's 1.5 inches wide. Beautiful. So I've still got a square like that. If I click on this box here, you can kind of see it represents the height. And I'm going to make that 0.75, make it a little shorter. Okay, so there's the base of my tugboat. All right. By the way, you might have noticed up here in the corner, cool Stantia Wolt. That's just a made-up word that TinkerCAD uses as sort of a placekeeper for the title. Of course, I'm going to click on that and go Mr. Pat P3, first, fifth, something like that. And then maybe even tugboat. So I encourage you, in fact, I'm telling you, change it with your name, your period number, and tugboat there. All right. Now, you may be wondering how I'm moving this thing here, this blue grid that I'm working on, the work plane around. I'm sitting at a desktop computer, and if you have a Chromebook you're working on, for goodness sakes, get yourself a mouse. It makes it about 100 times easier. If I just click on the right button of my mouse, I can move this thing around, and I can wiggle it up and down, and a lot of times that makes my life so much easier when I'm trying to work on this. I also can use the roller on my mouse to move out or move in to see things better. I'm doing that kind of all the time. I do it so often I don't even really think about it much anymore. All right, I'm going to zoom out a little bit. So now I need this tugboat to be pointy at the front to cut through the water good. I'm going to grab this thing. It's called a roof. It's actually more like a wedge. If I put it here, it's not really the way I want it. Okay, I kind of want it. See these little arrows here that are the double arrow here? I can turn it. You can see there's a degrees over there. There's 90 degrees. And if I come at it from the side, I can turn it this way. And this rotating is something that you should experiment with and become accustomed to. Okay? You can see that it's kind of below my work plane there. If I grab this little black cone here, it's kind of like a birthday party hat, I call it. I can drag it up so it's equal and on that work plane. And I'm going to move this guy over. And let's see, I'll make him the same height as my guy here. Remember that was 0.75. So now they're the same height. And let's see, I need to stretch this guy out a little bit. Stretch this guy out a little bit. It feels like I got my snap still on. I do. Ha! That's what's messing me up, right? Snapping is basically, it just kind of sticks to the next square, kind of like a magnet. And that can be kind of annoying, although sometimes it can be useful. Or maybe I'll make the point of my thing come out a little further. Instead of that, I'll make that 0.75. And that makes my thing a little point here. Now, right now, what I have are two separate shapes here. I've got this wedge and I've got this square. But if I want those guys to stay together for the rest of their lives, what I can do is just I'm going to click up here in the corner and drag with my my left mouse button. Basically, I'm selecting both of those objects. And up here in the corner, there's a thing called grouping. If I group them, it turns it into one solid object. That way, when I do something to this object, it does it to both pieces. Let's see if I can get back to 3/4. Perfect. So there's the start of my tugboat. Now I need to put another square on top of it for like the cabin or the wheelhouse where the little tugboat drivers go. Since I want to do something up here on the top of this shape, what I'm going to do is up here in the top right corner, this thing is called a work plane. This is a work plane too. In fact, I think it says down here a work plane, right? But I can move my work plane. If I put my work plane on top of it, that's where all my stuff is going to happen that I do next. And it also kind of makes the next part I put on here stick to it just like a magnet. Sometimes it can be very challenging to get my pieces to stick to one another. So if I just put my block here in the middle, that looks pretty good. I might move it a little bit just to try to center it, just kind of using my eyeballs. If I look at it from the front, again, I'm using my right mouse key to do that. Bring it down a little bit. I can look at it from above. I can stretch it out. There's not really a set rule for how this tugboat needs to look. Yours might look a little different than mine, but it should be something in the neighborhood of this, okay? And since I'm done working on that part of the boat, I'm going to take my work plane and put it back on the bottom. Oh, come on, work plane. Come on. Yeah, there it is. It goes back on the bottom. Now, remember, this is still a separate piece from these two guys I joined together. In fact, if I lift this guy up, I can bring him all the way off. All right, but I'm going to bring him back down until he's touching, maybe even a little bit below the surface. Right about there. That look good? I don't see any airspace there. So once again, I'm going to draw a box around all of the shapes. Click on my group button. And now that is one giant shape. See, the whole thing moves, right? The whole thing changes height in proportion. Well, let's see. We can't have a tugboat without smokestacks. So I'm going to take my work plane, stick it on top again. And I'm going to grab one of these cylinders. Ooh, that's way too big. Let me go and click on this. Instead of 1, let's make it 0.25. Instead of 1, let's make it 0.25. That's a little better looking smokestack for the size of my tugboat. Might be appropriate for other ones. The work plane is keeping it stuck on the middle there. Here's kind of a cool thing I can do. If I've got this guy selected, there's a duplicate and repeat tool. So I just made a copy, and I'm going to move it over. And I'm going to make another copy. Look at that, 3 in a row. Now, they don't look like they're right exactly in the center of my tugboat's wheelhouse there. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to draw a line around all of these objects. And here's a thing called aligning. Aligning means to center things. So if I click on this dot right here down at the bottom, watch. Didn't move much, but now those guys are perfectly centered. And I can click back down here, make that go away, put my work plane down at the bottom. That's a pretty decent looking tugboat. But I want people to know that it's mine. So I might want to put some words on the side. I grab this, first of all, work plane, put it on the side, and grab this text box here. See text over here. GMS. Oh, come on, you. Backspace, GMS. And that's a little big. Let's see. I can change how high they stick out. That's pretty cool. Oh, come on. I lost my GMS-ness. Going to make that a little smaller. So you should be able to change the font. Put that just like there. Put my work plane back down on the bottom. Let's see, what else could I do? It's kind of sticking out a little far. I might move that in a little bit. In other words, make the height a little shorter. It's not sticking out too far. There we go. And as before, highlight everything, group it, and now it all becomes one tugboat. And we could add things to our tugboat. There's some pretty funny things. There's stars here. There's diamonds under basic shapes. Fun and games. Look at that. I could put a pumpkin. All sorts of things. All sorts of odd things. You can hunt around a little bit. I don't want you to spend a whole ton of time. Suppose I could put a ping pong paddle. Sort of a random thing to put on a tugboat, but you get the idea. I would like to see you at least put one extra object. Let's see. Creatures and characters. You could put an eyeball on it. You could put sunglasses. You could put a mustache. That'd be pretty cool. Put a mustache on the front of your tugboat. Oh, my mustache is turned the wrong way. I'm going to have to rotate it. Come on, rotation. This guy's being a stinker, isn't it? There we go. Oh, it's kind of upside down. There we go. There's my mustache. Oops, it's not on the thing quite yet. There. Super-de-duper. Put my work plane on the bottom. Now I've got a mustache on my tugboat. I know, very random, Mr. Pat. Guys, sometimes I use the word playing. And playing doesn't mean that you're just being completely 100% silly and just goofing around. But be playful, experiment, try things. Don't be afraid to make a mistake. You learn a lot by goofing around. If you've ever seen a little kid learning how to walk, there's a lot of stumbling and falling down, and you're kind of in the infancy of your TinkerCAD career here. So try to follow these steps. Again, when you're done, make sure everything's nice and grouped. And it should all be in one color. And there's your tugboat. Show it to your teacher, and you can move on to the next step. All right? Good luck, and remember you can rewind and pause this video at any time if you need to go back and figure out how to do something. I might have been moving a little fast for you. All right? Have fun.